Funny thing about pain, it's the best teacher you never asked for. It sneaks up on you, wraps its fingers around your throat, and just when you think you can breathe again, squeeze, it tightens. Oh, and the people who bring it, the ones who carve the deepest scars, they're not strangers, no, no, no. You ever notice how pain has a way of peeling back the layers? Like a magician, revealing a trick you wish you never saw. It pretty obviously meant you knew how to cope. Oh, you were comfortable, weren't you? You had it all figured out. Who was on your side, who had your back, who would never, ever let you down. And then, like a perfectly timed punchline, life steps in and says, "Oh, you really think so?" Then, boom. Everything you thought you knew gets shattered. But here's the part they don't tell you, the part no one likes to talk about. When the smoke clears, when the dust settles, you start seeing things for what they really are. Not the way you wanted them to be, not the fairy tale you sold yourself, but the raw, ugly, unfiltered truth. Because pain is honest. Pain doesn't sugarcoat. Pain rips the mask right off. And the people who brought that pain, oh, they thought they were being so clever, didn't they? Whispering behind your back, smiling to your face, setting the stage just right to watch you fall. But the joke's on them, because what they didn't realize is that every little cut, every betrayal, every moment they made you question yourself, it was all just stripping away the lies, exposing the truth they were trying so hard to keep hidden. You see, when you're comfortable, when everything's smooth sailing, you don't question much. You don't dig too deep. You just go along with the script, believing the people around you are who they pretend to be. But when things start to hurt, when the ones you trusted show their true colors, that's when you really start to see. And oh, what a sight it is. They weren't loyal, they weren't real, they were placeholders, shadows, distractions, keeping you from noticing what was right in front of you all along. But you didn't want to see it, did you? No, 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 because the truth is a little too inconvenient. The truth means admitting you were wrong about them. It means facing the fact that you let the wrong people in, that you trusted hands that were always holding knives. It's not a pleasant realization, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. And that's where everything changes. Because once the truth is out, you stop playing along, you stop pretending. And when you stop pretending, you become dangerous. They can't manipulate you anymore. They can't twist the story, can't gaslight you into believing it was all in your head. The curtain's been pulled back, and now you know exactly who they are. And that terrifies them. They wanted you blind. They wanted you confused, second-guessing yourself, doubting your own reality. But now you see everything. They'll try to cover it up. They'll spin new lies, put on a new act, try to convince you that you were the problem all along. But you're not buying it anymore, are you? The spell is broken, and now you're left with one simple, undeniable truth. The pain they caused wasn't an accident. It wasn't random. It was necessary. It was the only way you were ever going to see the truth they were so desperate to hide. Funny thing about people, you think you know them, you really do. You look into their eyes, you listen to their words, you believe the promises, the laughter, the warmth. You tell yourself, this one's different, this one's real. And just like that, you hand them the keys, let them in, make a little space for them in your world. And why wouldn't you? Trust is a beautiful thing. It's what keeps people connected. It's what makes you feel safe, but safety, my friend, is an illusion. And trust? Oh, trust is the sharpest weapon of all. Because the ones who hurt you the most, the ones who carve the deepest wounds, they're never the strangers. No, no, no. They're the ones you held close, the the ones you let inside, the ones who whispered, "I'd never do that to you." And yet here you are, staring at the wreckage, replaying every moment in your head, trying to figure out where it all went wrong. But the truth is, it didn't just go wrong. It was always going to happen. They were never meant to stay. They were never built to last. And if you think real hard, if you really look back, you'll realize that the signs were always there, weren't they? Little cracks in the foundation, little slips of the tongue, little moments that didn't sit right, but you ignored them. You brushed them aside because you wanted to believe in them, because the idea of them was so much prettier than the reality. But now the mask has slipped. Now you see them for who they really are. And it stings, doesn't it? Because when they walked away, they didn't just take their presence. They took the version of them you built in your mind. That version, that perfect illusion, it shattered. And maybe you're standing there in the rubble, wondering if it was all fake. Every word, every moment, every memory. And maybe, just maybe, a little part of you is still waiting for them to turn back, to explain, to say, "I didn't mean it," but deep down, you know they won't. Because people like that, they don't look back, they don't regret. They just move on like nothing ever happened. And here's the real kicker. They were never as important as you thought they were. Oh sure, they mattered in the moment, they played their part, they had their scene in your story, but they weren't the main character, they were just passing through. And if they had stayed any longer, if they had stuck around, if they had wormed their way in even deeper, oh, it would have been so much worse, so much darker. See, that's the thing about losing people who were never meant to stay. It's a gift wrapped in pain. It doesn't feel like a gift. No, it feels like a knife to the gut. But look a little closer. What did their absence give you? Clarity, strength, freedom, and most of all, it made space. Space for something real, something better, something that won't crumble the second you stop holding it together. Because the right people, they don't need masks. They don't need manipulation or control or empty words. The right people stay, not because they have to, but because they want to. Funny thing about pain, people think it weakens you. They think it leaves you broken, crawling, gasping for air like some wounded animal. But that's not how this works, is it? No. See, suffering does something they don't expect. It twists, it grinds, it sharpens. It builds something inside you. Something raw, something real. It's like a fire, burning away everything that wasn't strong enough to survive. And what's left? Oh, what's left is something they never saw coming. You remember how it felt, don't you? When the people you trusted turned their backs. When the ones you loved chose betrayal over loyalty. When the ones who smiled in your face were the same ones sharpening their knives behind your back. It hits different when the attack comes from the inside. When the people you thought would protect you are the ones pulling you apart, piece by piece. It's not the pain of a stranger's hand, it's the agony of knowing you let them in, that you gave them access, that you handed them the weapon they used against you. But here's where things get interesting. They thought they were breaking you. They thought they were watching you collapse. They didn't realize what they were actually doing was building you. See, suffering is a teacher. A cruel one, sure, but an effective one. And the lesson? have once slipped right past you. You don't trust blindly anymore. You don't hand out your loyalty like candy. You learned contradictions and greed and pain and suck and stink and grow. And while they were out there celebrating your downfall, laughing at your suffering, thinking they'd won, what they really did was give you a gift. They forced you to find strength you didn't even know you had. They thought they were burying you, but all they did was plant something deeper. Now every scar, every wound, every ache is just another reminder that you survived. And survival, oh survival, is dangerous. Because the person who walks through fire doesn't fear the flames anymore. The person who has been through hell doesn't flinch at the demons. And now when they see you, they don't see the broken, desperate person they expected. No, they see something else. Something colder, something stronger, something they can't control. And that terrifies them. Because the person they try to destroy no longer exists. What's left is something far, far more dangerous. You know what's funny? How people think they've got you figured out. They play their little games, pull their strings, twist your mind into knots, and then sit back like they're some sort of mastermind. Like they've won. They use their charm, their manipulation, their lies. Always lies, so many lies. And they think, this one will never see it coming. And for a while, they're right, aren't they? Because you want to believe in them. You want to see the good. You ignore the red flags, the warnings, the little alarms ringing in the back of your mind because you tell yourself, no, they wouldn't do that to me. Not them. But eventually the mask slips. Oh, it always slips. Maybe it's in the middle of a sentence, a moment of carelessness, or when they think you're not paying attention. And there it is, that crack in their facade, that little glimpse of who they really are. And suddenly, everything makes sense. All the things that didn't add up, all the moments you brushed off, all the doubts you silenced because you didn't want to believe them, it all clicks. And let me tell you, that's a moment you'll never forget. You see them clearly for the first time, and it's like staring into the eyes of a predator. Not a lion, not a wolf. Those creatures are honest about what they are. No, these manipulators are something worse. They're the kind that smile while they sink their claws into you, that laugh while they're tearing you apart. And when you finally realize what's been happening, when you start to pull away to take back your power, that's when their real face shows up. That's when the charming mask turns into a sneer, when the sweet words twist into venom, when the promises they made crumble into ash. And yet they'll still try to spin it, won't they? They'll still try to make you doubt yourself. You're overreacting. You're too sensitive. You misunderstood. They'll make it sound like you're the one who's broken, like you're the one who did something wrong. And for a moment, just a moment, you might even believe them. That's how good they are. That's how deep their game runs. But not this time. Not anymore, because this time you're awake. This time you've seen through their act. Now here's the part they don't expect. They think once you see the truth, once you feel the sting of their betrayal, you'll crumble. They think you'll break. But the truth is, you don't. Oh no, you harden. You get smarter, sharper. You start noticing things you missed before. The tone of their voice, the flicker in their eyes, the way their words don't quite match their action. You stop giving them the benefit of the doubt. You stop explaining away their behavior. You stop playing their game, and that's when they panic. Because people like that, they thrive on control. They need you to stay small, to stay quiet, to stay compliant. The moment you stop playing by their rules, the moment you take that power back, their whole little house of cards starts to collapse. And they hate it. They'll try to claw their way back in. make you question your choices, make you feel like you're walking away from something real. But you know better now, don't you? You've seen what's behind the curtain. You know the truth, and the truth has set you free. But it's not just about freedom, is it? It's about what comes next. Because once you've been through this, once you've stood face to face with their lies and manipulation, you don't just walk away, you rise. You take every bit of pain, every moment of doubt, every scar they left behind, and you turn it into armor. You become someone they can't touch, someone they can't manipulate, someone who doesn't need their approval or their validation anymore. And that terrifies them, because they don't know what to do with someone they can't control. You know what's really amusing? The way they think they can just walk away, like it's all a game they've won. They do their damage, leave their marks, tear you apart piece by piece, and then disappear into the night like some vanishing act. They convince themselves it's all over, that they've moved on, that they've won the final round. But here's the twist they never see coming. They might walk away, but they don't walk free. Not really. No. They carry it with them, even if they don't want to admit it. The regret, the shame, the guilt, it's all there, buried deep where they think no one can see. They're funny like that, aren't they, narcissists? They like to play pretend, to act like they're untouchable, like nothing phases them, nothing weighs on their chest at night. They'll tell themselves they're justified, that it was all your fault, that you deserved whatever they did to you. But let me tell you something about people like that. They're not as immune as they pretend to be. Oh no. Deep down, they feel it. They hear your voice in the quiet moments. They replay the things they said, the choices they made. And that regret, that's the one thing they can't outrun, no matter how far they try to go. But you'll never see it. That's the thing. They'll never show it to you, never admit it, never come crawling back with some grand apology. 'Tis the same people you know used to be. Oh no! Their pride won't let them. That's the game they play, the facade they wear, the mask that says, I don't care. And maybe they even believe it for a while. Maybe they convince themselves they've moved on, that you were just a bump in the road, a lesson they've learned and forgotten. But when the lights go out, when the silence creeps in, that's when it hits them. That's when they realize they didn't just hurt you, they lost you. Oh, and it burns them, doesn't it? That loss. But they'll never admit that either. Instead, they'll tell themselves they're better off, that you were never what they wanted anyway. They'll drown it out with distractions, with other people, with noise, anything to keep the truth at bay. But you can only run from yourself for so long. Eventually, the cracks start to show. The moments of doubt creep in. The little voice in their head whispers, what if I was wrong? You see, regret is a funny thing. It doesn't always come in one big wave. No, it's more like a slow creeping poison. It starts small, just a flicker of a thought, a passing memory they can't quite shake. But then it grows, it festers, and before they know it, it's consuming them, piece by piece. They'll try to fight it, try to bury it, but it keeps coming back, like an itch they can't scratch. That's the thing about regret. It doesn't care how strong your walls are. It finds the cracks. It always finds the cracks. And here's the irony of it all. They regret it, but they'll never do anything about it. They'll never reach out, never apologize, never admit they were wrong. Because that would mean admitting they're not perfect, admitting they're flawed, admitting they hurt someone who didn't deserve it. And for someone like them, that's the ultimate defeat. They'd rather sit in their regret, stew in it, let it eat away at them from the inside out than face the truth. But don't let that fool you. Don't let their silence make you think they don't feel it. Don't let their pride make you believe they've forgotten. They haven't. They remember every word, every moment, every look in your eyes. when they crossed the line. They remember because they can't forget, no matter how hard they try. That's their punishment, their prison. And the best part? They built it themselves. They locked themselves in with their lies, their choices, their ego, and now they're stuck in it while you're out here living, growing, moving forward. It's not about vengeance, not about getting even. It's about understanding that their regret is theirs to carry, not yours. You don't have to hold it. Don't have to carry the weight of their mistakes. Let them wrestle with their guilt. Let them drown in their what-ifs and could-have-beens. That's not your burden. It's theirs. You ever notice how they always seem to blame the world for their actions? These manipulators, these narcissists, they walk through life like it's some kind of stage built just for them. And the rest of us? Oh, we're just props in their little production. They hurt you, tear you down, shatter the pieces of you that took years to build. And what do they say? It's not my fault. You made me do it. The circumstances were out of my control. The grand excuses, the dodging, the spinning of stories so intricate they start believing their own lies. But here's the kicker. Deep down, they know. Oh, they might not admit it. Might not even dare to whisper it to themselves, but they know. They know what they did. They know how they used you, broke you, manipulated you into thinking it was all your fault. They know, and the truth of that knowledge, it eats at them like a shadow that follows them wherever they go. No matter how many masks they wear, no matter how many people they fool, they can't run from that shadow. Oh, they try. Of course, try to justify it all in their heads. I was under pressure. I didn't have a choice. They would have done the same to me if the roles were reversed. They paint themselves as the victim, as if the whole world conspired against them, and you just happened to be collateral damage. And for a while, they might even believe it, might convince themselves that you deserved what they did, that they were the hero of their own story, that you were just an obstacle they had to push aside. But reality has a funny way of creeping in, doesn't it? In the stillness of the night, when there's no one left to impress, no one left to blame, no distractions to keep them occupied, that's when it hits them. Maybe that's when the silence becomes deafening, because in that silence, they hear it, the truth they've been running from, the truth they've tried to bury under layers of arrogance, pride, and denial. You see, people like that, they don't know how to sit with themselves. They spend so much time crafting an image, a persona, a story, that they forget who they really are. But when the world gets quiet, when the mirrors start reflecting back what they've been hiding, that's when they crumble. That's when they realize that no amount of excuses, no amount of justifications can erase what they've done. But here's the tragic part. They'll never admit it. Not to you, not to anyone. Because admitting it would mean taking responsibility. And responsibility, that's not in their vocabulary. To take responsibility would mean admitting they're flawed, that they made choices, that they hurt someone who trusted them. And for someone like that, it's easier to live with the guilt than to face the truth. So they carry it with them, that guilt. It's a quiet weight, one they pretend doesn't exist, but it's always there. They can't laugh without hearing the echoes of your pain, can't move forward without feeling the chains of their own actions pulling them back. And the more they deny it, the heavier it becomes. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The way their own lies become their prison, the way their refusal to take accountability locks them in a cycle they can't escape. They thought they were escaping when they walked away, thought they were free of it all, but they're not. They're trapped by the choices they made, the lives they touched, the people they broke. And you don't have to carry any of it. That's the beauty of it. While they're sitting there, weighed down by the ghosts of their own actions, you're free to let it go, free to move forward, to heal, to rebuild. You don't need their apology, their acknowledgement, their guilt. That's not your burden to bear. It's theirs, and it will always be theirs. You ever wonder why they don't reach out? Why they don't come crawling back, begging for forgiveness, admitting the wrongs they did to you? It's not because they don't feel it. Oh no, don't let the silence fool you. They feel it all right. Every little piece of guilt, every fragment of shame, every whisper of regret, it's all there, gnawing at the back of their minds like a stray dog chewing on a bone. But here's the twist. They'll never show it, never give you the satisfaction of seeing them broken, because for them, pride is their armor, and vulnerability, well, that's the one thing they fear more than anything. See, regret doesn't look the way you think it does for people like them. It's not loud. It doesn't come with grand apologies or tearful confessions. It's quiet, sneaky, something they bury so deep they hope it'll just disappear. But it doesn't. It festers, it lingers, it sits there in the shadows, whispering in their ears when they're alone. Every time they see someone who reminds them of you, every time they encounter a situation that echoes what they did, it's like a slap to the face, and they feel it. Trust me, they feel it. But reaching out, that's a whole different story. Because to reach out means admitting they were wrong. And people like them, they can't handle that. Admitting they were wrong means stripping away the carefully constructed image they've built for themselves. It means facing the truth they've been avoiding, the truth they've twisted and warped to make themselves feel better. And that truth, it's ugly, it's messy, it's the thing they've been running from since the moment they hurt you. To them, reaching out is like standing on the edge of a cliff, looking down into the abyss of their own guilt and shame. It's terrifying, it's paralyzing, because once they take that step, there's no going back. No more excuses, no more justifications, no more lies to hide behind. And that kind of honesty, it's too much for them. They'd rather live in their own version of reality, where they're the victim, where they had no choice, where you were just too difficult, too demanding, too whatever. Excuse makes them feel better. My rock, painted in blood, that's what's going to stay with them. But here's the irony. The more they run from it, the louder it gets. The more they try to convince themselves they did nothing wrong, the more their conscience fights back. Oh, they'll never admit it. Not to you, not to anyone, but it's there. You can see it in their eyes if you look close enough. In the way they avoid certain topics, certain places, certain people. It's like they're haunted, not by you, but by the version of themselves they can't escape. And yet, even with all that regret weighing them down, they won't reach out. Why? Because reaching out would mean giving you power. It would mean admitting they need closure, that they need your forgiveness to move on. And for someone who thrives on control, who manipulates and twists and schemes to stay one step ahead, giving you that kind of power is unthinkable. They'd rather sit with their regret, carry it around like a hidden scar, than let you see them weak, vulnerable, human. But don't mistake their silence for peace. It's not peace. It's turmoil wrapped in a pretty bow. They might smile, laugh, act like everything's fine, but underneath it all there's a storm raging. A storm of what-ifs and should-haves and why didn't I do better? A storm they can't escape no matter how far they run, no matter how hard they try to distract themselves. And you're free from that storm. That's the beauty of it. While they're stuck in their own cycle of denial and regret, you have the chance to move forward, to heal, to let go. You don't need their apology, their acknowledgement, their validation. Their regret is their burden, not yours. It's the bed they made, and now they have to lie in it.